All right, good evening, everyone. Mrs. Vassell, it's your time. Take it away for us, please.
Don't Touch Me There, Part 2. Good evening, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I want to express a warm welcome to you all to our rap session number 9 this evening, brought to you by the Northeast Jamaica Conference Youth Department. This is part 2 of the series under the theme, yes, you heard me right, Don't Touch Me There. I want to express a special welcome to our invited guests who have taken time out to be with us this evening. I am also elated that the church has taken the initiative to be discussing this issue. Welcome to you all from wherever you are joining from this evening or on whatever platform you are on. Last week, if you were with us, we set the pace and the stage by looking on the types of sexual abuse, the legal definition under the Sexual Offences Act, as well as the church's position. Again, thanks to Mrs. Kedeen Hood from the CPFSA, Mrs. Sidonie Skeen Cooper from CISOCA, and also Dr. Lorraine Vernal, Children, Women and Family Life Director from the Jamaica Union. This week promises to be even more exciting, or as exciting as last week. But before we begin, Brother Leonard will offer a word of prayer.
Good night, everyone. Welcome once again. Let us bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, O Lord, for life, for breath, for intelligence. We thank you for the protection of your holy angels and the guiding of your Holy Spirit. We ask that as we go forward tonight, that your Spirit will lead, and that those of us will be edified that need to be edified, and those that need to be helped will be helped, that those who are in need will find a way. May this program give them hope. May you bless them, O God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Brother Leonard. At this time, I'm just going to give you a little second to go grab some paper and some pencil or a pen so that you can make notes, because I'm trusting that the information that we're about to receive, that you cannot afford to miss it, and you probably want to jot it down. This evening, we have a lineup for you. Firstly, we'll be looking on the practical application of the law in cases of sexual abuse is Mr. Adley Duncan from the Office of Director of Public Prosecution. He is a graduate of the Norman Manley Law School. He's an attorney at law who has worked on a number of landmark cases, both in private and public service, employed currently to the government of Jamaica. He's keen on addressing the human rights needs of the stakeholders in the Jamaican criminal justice system. In 2015, he was a recipient of a Chevening Scholarship. He holds currently a Master's of Law in Jurisprudence and Legal Theory. So he will be our first presenter. Followed after, we will have a video, and then our second presenter, Dr. Grace Kelly, who will be talking to us about counseling tips for victims and associates of victims. Dr. Grace Kelly is an educator, counselor, crisis interventionist, grief and bereavement therapist, motivational speaker, author. Dr. Kelly is also a restorative justice practitioner. She is an associate professor at the Northern Caribbean University, a curriculum development specialist, and a passionate volunteer who has worked with the church and a wide range of local and international government and non-government organizations. Thirdly, we'll be having Miss Cami Knight. She will be talking to us on rehabilitation of sex offenders, and some persons had asked about this on the last presentation. So Miss Cami Knight, Acting Registration Officer at the St. Mary Probation Office. She is a graduate of the Northern Caribbean University with a bachelor's in psychology and a minor in social work. Currently, she's pursuing a master's in counseling psychology. All the presenters will be coming to us to give us a 20-minute presentation, and then we will have 10 minutes of question and answers in between. Over to you, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. I hope everybody can see me. I have 20 minutes to speak, and I definitely want to make sure that I am reaching everyone. So if you have questions, I'm very open to them. These, people are very curious about the law. Please type them, please ask them, and I'll definitely be happy if I can to answer them. So I've been introduced. I am a lawyer and I work in the criminal justice system. And I have been asked to talk about the practical application of the law in sexual abuse cases, how the cases are managed before they reach trial, and how they progress through the Jamaican justice system. I want to talk about what sexual abuse is, but I understand that last week, from what I was hearing from the moderator, and I'd asked the moderator, I'm not keeping track of time, so just to give me an indication, please jump in and let me know when I have 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left, and when my time is up, because I'm not really watching the time. Right. So we're talking here about some very real issues, some very serious issues, and I will speak very openly and plainly because we're all, I guess everybody's listening is big, sensible people. So when we talk about sexual abuse, what is it that we really mean? I heard that last week there were some definitions given as to what certain sexual offenses were. I'll go back over it a bit. Under our Sexual Offences Act, we have a number of offenses defined. When we talk about sexual abuse, we're obviously speaking about the different ways that sexual offenses can be committed. Everything that I'm saying can be read. If you're very curious yourself, you can go back to the Sexual Offences Act. That's a legislation from 2009 that defines what most of our sexual offenses are. There are many ways that somebody can be abused. Children can be abused and adults can be abused. Children can be raped, adults can be raped, males and females, male children, male adults, female adults can all be sexually abused. I'm here, I guess, most talk about how this happened, what happens in practice when somebody is the victim or a survivor of a sexual offense. What are the next steps for them to take? What are the real life implications of these things? The first thing to understand, a question, so males can be raped. All right, let's go back there. I'm happy for the questions. Our law defines rape as when a man has sex with a woman without her consent, or if he does not care that she consents. And our law defines rape as penis in vagina, sexual intercourse, no consent, right? I did say that men and women can be sexually abused. I didn't say men can be raped. I said men and women can be sexually abused. A man can do various things with another man without his consent. A man can do various things to a boy, and a woman can do things to a boy. A woman can do things to a man that constitute sexual offenses. So in law, a man cannot be raped because sex under our law, Jamaican law, means penis in vagina. But there are other ways that a man can be sexually abused. And we're talking, of course, about sexual abuse. We're not confining ourselves to rape. So if a boy is molested, an adult male can be molested. And you will find that when things happen to adult males, understood, great. When things happen to adult males, they're even less willing to talk about it sometimes because of the fear of stigma, which I'm getting to, speaking up and that kind of thing. So probably it's a convenient time to go into it. You have to understand the nature of sexual abuse. There's a counselor who's coming to speak after me, but why I'm addressing it is with relation to speaking up and coming forward, because no case can start unless a report is made. When a report is made to the police, a statement is taken, a file is compiled, and it goes to court. But there is no file, there is no court anything unless a report is made. Now, if you think about it, when you cause someone's body to do something that they don't wish to do, that is torture. If you watch movies and you see people interrogating other people for information, terrorists and all these action movies, they point guns at their head, they do all kinds of things to them. They're trying to create a result. They are inflicting pain on people's bodies to create a result. And that is torture. And sexual abuse is no different. You are inflicting pain on somebody's body to get them to do something that you want them to do that they don't want to do. So when you understand it as torture, because people don't see it that way, people see that's always just sex. If you understand it as torture, you understand why there's a reluctance sometimes to come forward. So think about sexual abuse and consider sexual abuse as one of the worst things that can happen to someone. And we're speaking now in a church context. Unfortunately, I have myself handled cases where this kind of abuse, unfortunately, sometimes happens within the church, right? It can be even more difficult to speak up when your abuser is somebody you trust, right? Because this can have not just the physical effects on your body with the scars, but the emotional effects and the psychological effects and the flashbacks, and how difficult it may be to speak up, especially if you're a young person and this happened with somebody who is trusted. So what I wish to say is that if we want justice for people, we have to, all of us as members of the same community, have to make sure to create an environment where people can feel safe to speak up, because it's not easy to do. And if somebody does talk up, to make sure not to be judgmental, to make sure not to be critical, to make sure not to be condemnatory. Because it's easy to say, why was the girl there? Why did the girl take the gift from the man? Why did she do this? Why did she do that? But we don't blame people for things that happen to them. It is so easy to do that. The blame needs to go on the people doing the thing. Now, in terms of the practical application of the law, I wish to say a few things. One, the definitions have already been given from last week, but just by way of reminder, you have something called rape. You have something called sex with a person under the age of 16. You have something called grievous sexual assault. You have something called indecent assault. You have something called gross indecency. And you have something called buggery, which people don't like to talk about, but it very much exists in Jamaica, and it exists within the church based on facts that have reached my office. So I have to talk about everything today. So yes, that's right, anal sex. So I'm seeing the comments while I'm speaking. So here is one thing you should note. I think all of us have an understanding of rape, yes, and I think all of us have an understanding of sex with a person under 16 used to be called carnal abuse. So when it comes to rape, I'm a bit hot and sweaty, forgive me. When it comes to rape, it means having sex with a female person, whether a child or an adult woman, having sex with a female person who does not agree to it. And you know that she doesn't agree and you don't care. You go right ahead. That is rape. If rape happens within the church, I'm sorry, that's rape, sorry. Sex under 16 is where you have sex with a child who is under the age of 16. So even if she agrees to the sex, no sound, my microphone should be on. Can I be heard? I think I'm being heard. Even if she agrees, even if a child under 16 agrees to sex with a man, the law does not allow it. Thank you, hearing clearly, awesome. The law says that a child under 16 should not be having sex. And if anyone has sex with a girl who is under the age of 16, the law deals with it. What people don't know within a church context is that you have something called, someone called an adult in authority. Now, the maximum sentence for rape is life in prison. The minimum sentence for rape is 15 years, the minimum, which means that if you are convicted for rape in this country, you are not going to prison for less than 15 years. In most cases, it's going to be more than 15 years because the maximum is life. But the minimum is 15 years if you're convicted for rape. When it comes to sex with a person under 16, the maximum is also life, but the sentences tend to be much lower. But if you are a person in authority, it means the minimum for you is 15 years, an adult in authority. Basically, the law treats people who are in a position of trust in relation to a child different from other people. So a little 14-year-old can have a 15-year-old boyfriend and they have sex. The law says it's wrong, but they don't kill them, right? But if a 14-year-old has sex with somebody who was giving her extra lessons after school, for example, the law treats that very, very differently. The law treats that as an adult in authority, and the minimum sentence is 15 years. So somebody within the church, for example, could be treated as an adult in authority for these purposes, right? And that has implications for sentencing. So those are some of the ways that, and I was planning to go into the legal definitions more, but I understand those were covered last week, so I won't repeat anything that took place last week. In terms of the practical aspects of what happens, there is a dedicated unit of police officers who deal with abuse of children and sexual offense cases called SISOCA. Many of us might have heard of it. When a person, whether male or female, child or adult, is alleged to be a victim of sexual abuse, they are taken to this specialized unit. And why they're taken there to make the report is that these officers have specialized training. And it's important because it's really unpleasant, I must tell you, to have to report a case of sexual abuse. Because if you imagine it, if you think about it, this would be the worst thing that has ever happened to a person. Their worst sexual experience, their worst any experience. How many of you could talk about your worst experience, your most traumatic experience openly with someone? And yet, they are called upon to tell a stranger in detail what happened to them. Then they're sent to a medical doctor. Then they have to tell the doctor what happened to them. And so they have to relive it. And so it requires sensitivity and it requires training. So they're taken to this specialized unit of police officers who are specially trained to deal with these types of offenses. A statement is taken, the statement is read over, the statement is signed. If there is any, well, investigations will commence, further evidence will be taken perhaps from other people, perhaps from witnesses, perhaps forensic evidence, and then a file is created. The file contains all the statements, all the medical reports, all the forensic reports. Yes, please type your questions so I can answer them. And then a file is created. When the file is created, the file then goes to, depending on the parish, to the clerk of court for the particular parish. If it's Kingston where I work, you'll be halfway through. It goes to the clerk of court, and committal proceedings is held. And committal proceedings is basically where the file is read to see if the legal requirements are made out. If the legal requirements are made out, it is then committed. It's a committal proceedings. It is then committed for trial. When it's committed for trial, the file reaches my office. I work at the DPP's office. I'm a Deputy Director of Public Prosecution. So the file reaches my office. I prosecute all over Jamaica, not just Kingston. When the file reaches my office, it is then put on a mention list to make sure everything that needs to be done is done, that the person has a lawyer, all the statements are in, all the statements have been served on the defense lawyer, and then a trial date is set, and then it goes on the trial list, right? When it goes on the trial list, it is assigned to a court, and a prosecutor prosecutes the case. Those are the nuts and bolts of how it goes through the court system. But what I want to talk about now, how much time do I have? Can anybody tell me? I haven't been keeping track of time. Well, when they tell me to stop, I will stop. 7 minutes, okay. What I want to talk about is what a trial looks like. We have what we call an adversarial. Is it possible for a boy to be raped? A boy can be buggered, not raped in law. Buggery is effectively the same thing as rape in terms of forced sexual contact, but not raped in law. We call it buggery or gross indecency. Right. So what a trial looks like, remember I told you a child or any person who's sexually abused, but we take special sensitivity towards children. When they make a report to the police, the doctor, the prosecutor has to interview them, probably different prosecutors interview them, they relive it every time. When they go to trial, they have to go into a witness box and have to face strangers. The good thing is that sexual offense cases in Jamaica are what we call in camera by law. It means that only the persons who are involved in the case, a small number of persons, can be inside court. A boy rape a girl, how many years? Did he get? A minimum of 15 years. Minimum sentence for a rape is 15 years. So it's called in camera, meaning only the persons involved in the case, a small number of persons, are going to be in court at the time. Other cases like murders and stuff are open to the public. Everybody can go and look. And I encourage everyone to know how your justice system works, to go to court one day and look at a wounding case or a murder case or any type of case if you can stomach it, so you understand how the trial system works. But sex cases are in camera, meaning if you're not a witness or a police officer or the judge or a jury or a lawyer, you are not allowed, or court staff, you're not allowed to be inside the court. Implications if a person has been, oh, that's okay. A great question was just asked, and I'll end with that question. So after this point, so you go inside court, if you stand in the witness box, you have to swear an oath to speak the truth. If you don't swear the oath based on biblical principles, you can promise to speak the truth without swearing on the Bible. And then I or somebody from my office will ask questions about what happened. And then the defense lawyer will cross-examine the person to basically say what they're saying is not the truth. And you can understand how difficult it is, where you are giving an account of something, and somebody, the worst thing that has happened to you, and somebody's telling you that you're lying. And there are 7 jurors there who need to be convinced. So I say all of this to say that percentage of conviction for adults. Keep the questions coming. So I say all of this to say that at the level of the church, if somebody confides in you or indicates to you that something very bad of this nature has happened to them, it requires the ultimate sensitivity, because it's not easy going through the court process, because they have to speak about what happened in front of a judge. And I've seen people break down. I've seen people cry. I've seen people unable to continue the evidence. What I have seen a lot of, though, as hard as it is they usually, whatever the result, conviction or acquittal, they often come up to me and say they feel better having spoken about what happened. So that to get a sense of what happened, the practical application, person is arrested. So I spoke about it from the victim side. If somebody is accused of having committed an offense like this, they are arrested. They usually spend 1 to 2 weeks in custody. They are then brought before court. A bail application is made for them. Usually if they secure a lawyer, they often get bail, and then they have to report on bail until the matter is actually tried. Yes, so let me see if I can go into some questions, some law questions here. If a boy rapes a girl, how many years would he get? 15 is the minimum. It depends on the circumstances. What are the implications if a person knows that a child has been molested, but the case wasn't reported? Depending on the situation, the person can be implicated as a guilty party. Now, there is no duty to report a crime. There's no duty to report a crime. But you have an offense in law called misprision of felony. Whereas if you conceal a felony and it is discovered that you conceal, that you didn't report it, you can go to prison for up to 3 years. The percentage of conviction for adults having sex with a person under 16 years, I don't have the statistics, those are kept at my office, But generally speaking, people tend to plead guilty to those offenses. The conviction rates used to be a lot lower, but the conviction rates are much higher now, I think, because investigations have been improved. The quality of our delivery of justice has been improved under this new Chief Justice, and the conviction rates are better. I can't give the exact statistics though. How can one deal with flashbacks? That's a really, really important question. And I have an answer, but there's a counseling psychologist speaking after me who might better be able to answer. I won't intrude on her territory, but that's a really, really important question. And please have it for the next speaker. What about the mandate and the Child Care Protection Act to report? So that's with regard to children. Not every victim of sexual abuse is a child. On the CC reporting right. So the Child Care Protection Act refers to children, but not every victim of sexual abuse is a child. So when it comes to an adult, the provisions of this act wouldn't apply. But yes, when it comes to children, there is a requirement because we treat children differently. There's a requirement if you know the child is being abused, not just sexual abuse, but any type of physical abuse or emotional abuse as well, there's a duty to report to the relevant authorities. Any more questions? No, it doesn't look so. All right, well, I didn't have much time to speak today. I hope I've covered most of what I was supposed to talk about. And right, no more questions, great. So thank you very much for your time. If you have further questions, they reached out to me to come and speak here so they can similarly reach out to the person. So thank you very much. And I will answer any further questions that may arise. And if there are no more questions, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Duncan.
There's a hand, Romaine Williams.
Okay, so I'll take that hand.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Was there a question?
Go ahead, Romaine.
Hello. Hi, yeah, man. Hi. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing, Romaine? Good evening.
I'm good. Quick question, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, under the law, we know that consent is given to 16-year-olds. But the law also constitutes that you're not an adult until you're 18.
Right.
So what I'm wondering is, are there any contemplations in amending the law to just let everything be 18? Because it's quite a paradox for a child to be consented to have sex, but if you get pregnant, it's an issue because you're not an adult.
Yeah. I mean, 1 or 2 years ago.
So it's really a ticklish situation. So I really want to know if there are any considerations as it relates to that.
1 or 2 years ago, they had the Joint Select Committee of Parliament that they were considering various reviews of the sexual offense proposal that was made that was considered quite heavily, is to have what they call a close in age exception, meaning that they said that you can't have sex unless you're 18, and when you're an adult, do whatever you want to do. But if you're under 18, but between a certain age, let's say I think it was probably 14 to 18, if 2 people the same age had sex and they were under 18, the law would treat them differently. And they were trying to move the general age for consent up to 18. But that was put before Parliament and it was rejected. So the amendment was considered, but Parliament, of course, who makes the laws, did not agree with that proposal, so the law remains as it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. Again, are there any other questions before we move on? So that was an excellent presentation, you would agree? And I'm seeing some persons that saying that is confusing. I'm assuming that's the age of consent along with the age 18. And I hope that was clarified. So before we move on to the next presenter, so I did say that the third presenter would be Miss Cami Knight, but she would be the second presenter. But before she comes to us to present, we will have a sexual abuse video.
Leaving school in the evenings, I had to stay with my stepdad. There was another little girl who was living in his house. So it started at 8 where he was having sex with her and I had to sit and watch. So I sat there watching him until one evening he decided he wanted to try it with me. I was raped at the age of 9 by my stepdad. I remember I would go into stores and steal stuff just to get caught so I could go to a safe place. The hardest thing I had to do was actually pretend like I was happy and I wasn't. I was so unhappy.
Back then, as a child, I was living as an adult. Someone having sex with you almost every night is an adult thing.
Yes, I was 6 when I first got abused. I was molested again by 2 men. He was saying that it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. I felt like I would be a victim for the rest of my life.
Sexual abuse leaves a permanent scar.
When I hear the word abuse, I just think about the bad things. Just think about the bad thing.
It's like a family curse. It's like a cycle because myself, my grandmother, my mother, and my aunt, we all were raped as a child. Sharing my story, it actually helps other persons to open up, to feel free and to feel safe and not feel guilty about what happened in their past. With this, I decided to break the cycle. My daughter, she's my motivation. She's very friendly and kind. I talk to her about my abuse and she understands that she can come to me about anything. So I've made that choice with my child to correct some of the mistakes that my mother made. Each and every day she motivates me to push forward, to try to end sexual abuse in Jamaica.
I want to be an example. 𝓉𝑒𝓁'𝓉 has opened that door for me.
They care for young adolescent teen moms infected or affected by an STI or HIV.
When I could go to the monthly meeting and share things, I can say anything, the stuff that pile up for the month, I just let it out, let it right go.
I have persons I can just call and talk to. They'll just listen and remind me that I'm a star. 𝓉𝑒𝓁 helped me a lot to build my confidence level. I can make a difference in my child's life. I can make a difference in Jamaica and the world.
I've learned to cope with it. I've learned that it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. Don't think that your life is over. You got to face the world. I want to move forward.
Mentoring, it's a major part in my life to help them to move forward.
I would say I'm a strong person. I know that I'm a strong person.
You have persons that been abused, but they're not coming forward because what? They're fear. I was one of them.
Speak up and speak out. Your voices will be heard.
My uncle is still around. I just walk past him. I want to let him see that what he did to me wasn't the end of me. I want him to stand there and see the person he hurt.
My angry days are over. I decided that I'm not going to let my past ruin my future.
My hope for myself, my daughter, and the community is actually that girls can feel safe, play games, be happy, be free. With the help of 𝓉𝑒𝓁 for life, with the numerous trainings that I've gotten, and becoming a better parent, I will break the cycle. And I know I can break it.
Thank you very much for that video. It is really a difficult task to speak about sexual abuse. But as Mr. Duncan rightly put it, that we need to create that environment, that trusting environment, so that persons can actually speak up. Today I also saw an article, how to protect our children from predators, not just any predators, but predators that we know and we trust, which also includes, sadly, our own family members. At this time, we will now have a testimonial from Latesha. And I also want to apologize for Miss Knight, who is having some technical challenges. So after the testimonial, we will have the presentation from Dr. Grace Kelly.
Hi, good night, everyone. Everyone is doing fine. All right, so just gonna go into my testimonial real quick, and then gonna share some pointers after that. All right, so I was abused at the age of 13. I was sexually abused at the age of 13 by my dad. It started at first not as, you know, as something like that, because I didn't know him before the point that he abused me. I remember my mom sending me to live with him. Funny enough, after she has been abused by him, because he abused her when she was 14, which is how I came about. And she sent me there to live with him, which I thought was pretty crazy. Like, why would you send your child to live with your abuser? But you know, I remember trying to speak to her about it. And I said trying because we never had a mother-daughter relationship. We never had any sort of bond. I remember talking to her about it, and she was saying that I had no choice, which also impacted me for a great part of my life, because I grew up most of my life, you know, telling myself I had no choice. I had to accept whatever I got. Anyhow, she sent me there, and he was okay at first. You know, I know I can look back and say perpetrators really know what they're doing, because he presents himself as someone who, you know, is so loving and so kind and so caring and so gentle. And I started to rethink the hatred that I developed for him, because I started to say, okay, I finally got a dad. He's not so bad. Maybe he really changed. You know, he convinced me that he was a changed man, that he was not the person he used to be. It was all a mistake. Until, and then not me being naive, not knowing that he had motives. Because I remember when I just went there to live with him in Clarendon, he sent me to live with his mom. You know, one day out of nowhere, he makes an argument, and then he tells me to pack my stuff. Okay, pack my stuff. He brought me to his brother's house in the same community, just at the, well, walking distance away. And then a different time, he comes there a couple months later and he causes a fuss, you know, and then I had to move again. And he brought me to live in his hut that's on his farm. And that was where he started to make attempts. Like at this point, I'm reconsidering the person I started to know when I just arrived. I remember the first night he attempted, you know, we were laying on a bed. It's one bed, so we're both sleeping on the same bed. And he started to come over on me and stuff like that. You know, he was coming closer, and I'm coming off the bed. I'm going forward and he's coming forward. I remember when we finally reached the edge, I got up. And he was really upset. You know, he was wondering, he was really arrogant and asked me to come back to the bed, and I went back. I am afraid of him. He's pretty scared. So I went back. He didn't do, he didn't insert his penis at that time. He just rubbed his genital between my legs. And after that, we moved to a structure, and that was when it all started. When he was inserting his penis into my vagina. And the worst part about it for me in that moment when it just started, it was already bad enough that he was doing that, but it got even worse. I remember I was there one Saturday with his sister, and she told me that they were having a conversation, and in the conversation, he said that I'd have to do everything. I was young, so I'm not really getting this whole everything, but knowing what was happening, I'm double thinking everything. And when his sister left, he told me that yes, even that I'm thinking. I remember he was buying sex. So when I went there, when at that point, sorry, he let me know that I would have to give him sex in order for me to get the money to go to school. And I was thinking, like, in that moment, I was going to be a prostitute. I was going to be giving my own dad sex in order for him to send me to school. And that broke me more than everything else. After that, we moved to a chicken coop. So, we were on one side and the chicken was on the other side. He was still being the type of person. He's very angry and always hitting me and stuff like that. So it was not the sexual abuse, it was emotional and physical abuse, And someone tried to tell my guidance counselor about it. Well, they told her, and she had brought me to CDA for us to see about the issue. I remember when I went there, I told them, no, it didn't happen. In that moment, I'm scared. I don't know the process. I don't know if they're going to send me back home, because I'm thinking I'm going to have to go back home at the end of the day. And then I'm going to be killed or something, because he always threatens me like that. I remember him holding a cutlass to my neck and stuff like that. It was just pretty crazy. So I was really scared. I reported it one morning after he gave me a fine beating from a bamboo. I remember there was a piece of bamboo, he split it in two and used it to beat me the morning, because he thought I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do at that moment, which was getting ready for school. And it was that morning that my cup just overflew, because I remember all the bamboo, the things that came off, it was sticking inside of me. I was so sad. I was crying. It was like, that was the breaking point. And apart from that, I had to deal with everything else. So it's like everything just overflew in the moment. And I went to school and I reported it to my guidance counselor, and then she brought me to Sisoka. And we took it from there. When I went to the doctor, when I went there, because they had to do DNA and stuff, because after they went for him and all of that, he started to deny that I am his child and all of that. So they did a DNA and all of that, and they also did a test on me, which they realized that I had got something from him, which was curable. Thanks be to God. Now I want to go a little bit into life after, since that is what we're focusing on. So how I felt after the whole thing. Honestly, I felt unwanted. I felt unloved. I felt like, it was just me against the world. And I was questioning myself. What did, like I was saying, if God really loved me, like he said he did, then why do I have to go through this? And why did my mom had to send me there. I was really upset with her. You know, the way she treated me and the fact that she sent me there, I was pretty upset. And that took a toll on me. So it took a while for me to integrate myself back into society. I always wanted to be alone. I was locked away. Yes, I was going to school just the same, going to school, going to court, all of that. But I was away from society. I felt like the world just wanted bad for me, and I had to hide myself from the world. I had to hide myself from people for me to be safe. Personally, what I can say to anyone on this live or anyone who knows someone who is experiencing this, so you have to accept that it's not your fault, because at the end of the day, you were the victim in this case. You were supposed to be protected. You were supposed to be loved and cared for. It's not your fault this happened to you. It's not because you were rude. It's not because of what you were wearing or anything that people might say to you. It's not your fault. And then, of course, I have to say to persons, don't be hard on yourself. And I learned it the hard way. I was very hard on myself. You know, I was just always blaming myself. I was so hard on myself that when I started to realize it, I felt bad for myself. And another point that I can give to others out there is take the time you need. You know, don't just let people say, oh, this happened a few months ago, that was last year, she just gets over it. No, take the time you need, because abuse is not something that you just get over. It's something you get through. It is a process. So you're gonna need time. You're not gonna forget that this happened to you, but you're gonna need time to get through it. And then talk to someone. I can definitely say that talking helps, because me, even just constantly telling your story or constantly relating how you feel to someone, even if you don't go in depth all the time, it assists you in getting through. And as mentioned about me isolating myself from society, don't isolate yourself, and forgive yourself and forgive your perpetrators. Of course, I have to say forgive yourself, because as I mentioned just now, sometimes we become so hard on ourselves. Forgive yourself for being so hard, and then forgive the person who did wrong to you. Because even though they were the person who did wrong, it's a very big step in getting through your abuse and moving forward. You have to forgive, even though you won't forget, because you're gonna remember it. And not sure how much time I have left, but the most important thing is to put God in the healing. And I'm a personal testimony as to how God has assisted me in this process. You know, the church has assisted me. And so, because I know that He's the Alpha and the Omega and the beginning and the end, you know, I get to a point where I understand Him for myself, because someone can tell you about Him, but when you understand Him for yourself, you understand the purpose He has on your life. And you know, we're always told that He knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, and we tend to hear it all the time that He will never leave you nor forsake you. So therefore, to anybody listening, to anybody hurting, to anybody going through abuse, trust in His word, believe with faith that He's gonna carry you through, because if He brought you to this, He's gonna bring you through this. You know, I am led by the story of Job. You know, I think all the time how God took everything from him. And in my moments when I was blaming God, I was like, God, you say you love me and all of this. I can't believe you put me through all. I was so upset. Many times I was like, God, just take my life. Like, I'm gonna need this. You know, I tried to take my own life as well. I was like literally, I'm over this suffering. Just take everything and go with it. And many times when I could have died, He saved me, because He has a purpose on my life. And I believe He has a purpose on your life as well. So, of course, include Him in the healing process. And take your time, go through the process, and talk to someone as well.
Thank you so much, Latesha. You are really a brave girl, as I see, and many persons are typing in the chat. And I'm sure that your testimony this evening will help somebody to overcome about one thing that you said, God, forgive the perpetrators. And persons are asking, how could you have forgiven your perpetrator? But you mentioned you couldn't have done it without God and without the church being there for you. So I want to thank you so much. And I also want to inform you that Latesha is also an author of a book. So I'm going to ask her to type that information in the chat so you can always go ahead and feel free to read the story. Thank you very much, Latesha. We will now turn over to Dr. Kelly.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's really a privilege being here with you all. And I listened to Latesha, and Latesha is not just telling her story. Latesha is a counselor sharing from personal experience what life has been like as she has gone through this whole abuse situation and still getting through the pain to get past the past. I wondered after this, what more do you want me to say? I feel like I should just pause and say, well, what questions do you have? Because she said it all. It is rape, sexual abuse is not something that you get over. You get through, you know. Earlier, Mr. Dennis spoke about the legal side of it. And the person in the video, one thing that stood out to me, said, my anger days are over. I will break the cycle. I know I can. And those are the kinds of mindset that one needs to be able to get through this. Latesha also mentioned, which you emphasize or re-emphasize, that forgiveness is very important. And how dare you ask me to forgive someone who has done such cruel thing towards me? But forgiveness is necessary, because if you don't forgive, you're actually drinking poison and expecting the person to whom your anger is directed to die. That's what unforgiveness does to you. I want to congratulate the team of persons who have come up with this program, Ms. Vassell, and so many of you who have sought to deal with this matter, which is so prominent in our society. Now, while the definition of sexual abuse has been given since you started your program last week, this is a part 2, I just want to reemphasize, even though also earlier Mr. Dennis Duncan, I'm calling him Dennis, he also reinforced the whole concept of sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is a behavior, act of force, an act of power, and it includes man, woman, and child, be it a male or female. It is a violent act against self. And most times when people have been sexually abused, their thought process is all mixed up. Common things that they think about is, how could this really happen? Has it really happened? How could it happen to me? What have I done, or what could I have done differently? The truth of the matter is, from a counseling perspective, because it's an abuse of power and it's something that was thrusted upon you, you couldn't have done anything about it. And you cannot blame yourself either, because you are not responsible for somebody else's behavior. And that is a choice that that person made to violate you as a person and to overpower you, as it were. You know, when Latesha was speaking about the abuse and when she went into the situation that her mom came out of, and it appeared as if the person was changing and some grooming was happening, you know. She was being lured into. It's not something that came suddenly. And yes, somebody might be listening and say, but you're stupid. How could you have gone and sleeping in the same bed with a man who has abused your father, your mother? But those are some things that a child has little or no control over. And that's not really the issue. The issue is the adult person, that man or that woman, because there are females who are abusing males and are abusing other females. That person who makes the choice to abuse something or someone, that is their responsibility. They consciously decide. It's not like one day they got up and they were drinking and they were drunk, or they were smoking and they were high, or they take coke or pop, whatever you call it, and they're out there in the clouds. No, they think most persons who have abused individuals, they have thought through it. They think it through, they plan it, and they ensure that their victims fall prey at a moment when they are most vulnerable. So some of the things that happen is that there's fear and anxiety. The fear of what people will think when they find out. The fear of being judged by others. The fear of going into the legal system to deal with it. You know, Maya Angelou, when she reported her rape situation, she said, the man went to prison, he came out, and within 24 hours of him being out, he died, and they found out that he was kicked to death. And she blamed herself for that. She was 5 years old. Between 5 and 7, all of that happened, and she stopped talking. For 5 straight years, she didn't utter a word because she blamed herself. But the good thing about that is that while she was not talking, she was doing a lot of reading. And the conclusion for her was something good can come out of something bad. No, we are not saying that the bad should have happened. We are saying that the bad happened, but something good came out of it. My anger days are over. I'm pulling from that clip. I will break the cycle. I know I can. That's the mindset that one needs to have, not fear, because fear, it cripples you. It makes you numb. It makes you unable to relate the situation or even to seek help. So fear and anxiety, some persons are afraid that the world is not safe, that there's nowhere that is safe. They're afraid that they will get pregnant. They're afraid that they may have contracted STIs. And those are real. Other things that may happen is that one becomes extremely angry. And the anger sometimes is directed to self. How could I have caused this? But remember, you are never responsible for somebody else's behavior. And being raped or sexually abused is another person who has chosen to inflict on you pain, not your responsibility. So stop blaming yourself. How can I? When I'm the one who went there to get the money, or I'm the one who went in the bed, or I am the one who saw it coming and didn't move fast enough. I am the one who didn't talk early enough. It doesn't matter. You are not responsible. Remember, people can and they will do things to hurt you and harm you. And you may never, ever feel that, okay, well, I'm an empowered, strong person and this shouldn't or couldn't happen to me and I'm just gonna get over it. No. This kind of abuse, the anger, the rage that it causes, may even cause you to do something worse to someone else. And in social work, social psychology and counseling, there's this common phrase, it says, hurt people, hurt people. Because when you're hurting, you hurt other people, sometimes out of revenge, and sometimes it's just a sheer not knowing what to do with your feelings, and it spills over. What do you do if you're angry? Seek out support, seek help from a counselor. Write out your angry feelings, write it, or talk it out. Do an audio diary if you must, and tell all your stories. Save it to your own drive, your own cloud, your own phone. If you have 2 phones, WhatsApp it to the other. But keep it in a safe place that nobody can get that information, because sometimes it may just fall in the wrong hand. So sometimes if you talk it out, write it out, some people, I tell them when I'm treating with this kind of sensitive natured thing, write it on tissue and flush it. Or write it down in somewhere using fictitious name. I know a person who, or be brave enough and write your story as it is. But whatever it is, get it out. Seek information that can assist you. Don't look for the things that will burden your mind. And you start looking at stories of people who have been raped or been sexually abused, and having that kind of information in your brain, it pushes you into a state of depression. No. Get information on how to make appropriate decisions in stopping the abuse and not make it continue. Try to maintain a regular routine as best as you can. Be or operate in the now, the here and the now. This is where I'm at. This is what has happened. That's in the past. This is where I'm at. I am working through this. Here, I'm not saying you're working to get over it, because you can't get over it, you're getting through it. The anger can be subsided when you avoid interacting with the individual who may have caused the hurt, or the environment in which you have been hurt. Generally speaking, though, it's important that you take some time to relax, listen to soothing music, read your Bible, read some stories that empower you, or watch some videos or YouTube videos that makes you feel like a phenomenal person, the phenomenal person that you are. Exercise regularly. But beyond the anger, I have difficulty trusting. Yes, that too is a symptom, is a sign of the kind of reaction that happens. So you cannot trust yourself. You can't trust others. You can't trust people in relationships. That's normal and natural. You can't trust your friend, your family. You can't trust people in power. You can't trust your intimate partner because you're afraid that they do the same thing. It's natural and it's a normal reaction. But you've got to learn step by step to trust yourself first, to trust knowing that you will never, in your own power, allow this to happen, and you will never do that kind of thing to someone else. Trust yourself, knowing that you have the power to overcome. Trust yourself, knowing that there is a God who will be by your side to get you through this. But the fear you talk about, I might get over it, the trust you talk about. But even though I start appreciating people, and let me reinforce this statement as a the whole matter of trust. When we're talking about trusting people, what you should aim for really is to respect others, forgive them and respect their position, but you're going to trust God to help you to be able to interact with these people and to be able to see them through His eyes, and knowing that it is through Him that you're going to be able to fully interact. We can't trust, we dare not trust our own. That's what the Bible says. We can't trust our own. It's sad, but it's true. So I get to this point where I'm avoiding people. Having been sexually abused, I don't want to go where, places like I was abused. I don't want to go out with my friends. I don't want to go to church. I don't even want to go to school. Some of those thoughts are coming, so you are avoiding. And again, it's a normal, natural reaction to hurt and pain, not just from sexual abuse, but any pain, is that you try to avoid anything that would cause the pain. It is good if you can take a break, yes, from too much social interaction, to reconnect with yourself, to manage your difficult emotions. And because if we do not manage our difficult emotions, those emotions can propel us into doing worse things like sexual abusing others, verbally abusing others, physically abusing others, or abusing drugs. And I heard one person mention, but one of the things from a counselor's perspective that you need to know, when someone is sexually abused, they can either go to any of the two extremes. They can withdraw and not have any interaction with the person or the sex of the person who abused them. So some males, if they were abused by females, they turn to men. Females, if they were abused by male, they turn to females. So that's where you see this whole mix up with the homosexuality issues coming. Some people, they are not really homosexuals. They're just wanting to find a different way of expressing themselves because they were hurt. in the normal way that God intended for them to enjoy life. It was misrepresented and they were abused. We have some individuals too who feel guilty and they blame themselves because they think that it was their fault, but it is never ever your fault. So don't self-blame. The feelings will come, but don't harbor them. The only person responsible is the person who assaulted you, the person who hurt you. Some become out of control and the rage and the anger we spoke of earlier, especially when they have issues. Some may experience flashbacks. Some may experience eating disorder. They eat one meal a day, 1 meal per day. Get up in the morning eating, and you do not stop until you go to your bed. For others, they go on a seafood diet. Anything they see, they eat. For others, they binge. They become anorexic. All kind of stuff because they, regurgitate what they eat. Some people feel dirty and they want to shower every minute. So sometimes parents, bigger siblings, or even younger siblings, you see your siblings coming in from school or from work or from play, and they rush into the bathroom, face made up. They're upset. And they change from a person who was really outgoing to somebody very withdrawn. And they go into the shower and they don't want to come out. They just keep running because they are trying to wash the shame of their physical person. That's some of the signs you look for. Some persons become nauseated, and there's mood swings, there's nightmare, jumping out of their sleep, especially when they have these flashbacks on what has happened. Here are a few other suggestions that you can do generally in order to help these persons. Listen to music. The other thing we can do, be careful of the music that we listen to. Don't listen to the ones that will be hyping you, or this one may be outdated. Hey, I'm suicidal. No, don't listen to those. That will make you do that. Don't listen to the music that will help you recall the moments. Listen to soothing music and preferably the sounds of nature, birds and bees, and the waters rushing, soothing music. Listen to some empowering songs. He know my name. Oh, how he walks with me. Oh, how he talks with me. And I am his friend. Those kinds of music. Read a book or magazine. Latesha, I heard she has written a book. Start reading that book. Read the Bible. Meditate on God's word. Relax, if you can, in some warm water, warm bath. Relax. Treat yourself to a nice date by yourself. Fix something nice to eat. Go for a walk. Do some gardening. plant some flowers or some vegetables, nurture them. Get a pet, a cat or a dog, and take care of them. Help to take care of the neighbors' children, little ones. While you do that, you're probably protecting them from hurt also. Physical exercise is important. Watch a good movie. I love Christmas movies. They're all in the same, but I love them. Watch a good movie. If you're an adult or even young adult, and perhaps as a result of the rape, you may be a mother, as I noticed, or a father. Well, you can't be a father if you were raped, but if you're a mother, ask someone to help to watch your child or children while you take some time for yourself. And finally, do what's happening now. Seek the help of a counselor. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a counselor. I'm a grief and bereavement specialist, restorative justice practitioner. I provide counseling and support for persons who have been hurt by others. Take some deep breath and recall the moments before the abuse. What was life like? And hold on to that memory and think through it. What do I want my life to be like after this? Empowered, driven, focused, goal-oriented. Never allow the pain of your past to cripple you. Instead, let it be that thing that catapults you into the future, into your best self, so you can look your abusers in the eye. He said, what you intended for evil, God has turned into good. I hope I've been able to answer some of the critical questions that you had. And if not, I'll pause now for you to openly ask your questions or share them in the chat. And I'll be delighted to share with you. But no, you are never responsible for the abuse. God did not intend for that for you, and you can and you will, by the grace of God, be a victor and not a victim of this that life has dealt you. God bless you.
Amen. I feel like I was in church and I felt like I was also in a counseling session. Thank you so much for that, for those information, Dr. Kelly. And I trust and hope that we have all gained something, gained even one or two tips that we're able to help somebody with. There are some questions in the chat that persons have been typing. The first one I'm seeing is, what are the signs to look for that is for us to be able to know, identify when our youth have been sexually abused?
The ultimate answer to that question is that you may never always know, because some of our young people or persons who have been abused have learned how to disguise their feelings and how to mask what's happening, mainly because some of them may have been threatened and they are fearful of their life. But here are some that I mentioned, I will reiterate. One, somebody who was very outgoing has become very withdrawn. And say, for example, they may have had a good rapport with this elder or church brother or neighbor, or even because sexual abuse usually happens by someone who is very close. It's hard, it's rare when it happens randomly. So you see the movements have changed. Never, if adults are on this, and if a child comes home and said, Mommy, Mommy keeps sending her down to Mas John's house for whatever reason, maybe to deliver the quarterly, I don't know, maybe to deliver food or water or whatever. And she said, I don't feel comfortable going down there. Listen to what is not said. I don't feel comfortable going down there, or me no want to go down there, you know. Me not go down there in a resentful way. Those kinds of things. Persons, they may, for parents with young children, it's okay to check when they are bathing the child to make sure that their genitals have not been bruised. And if it is bruised, that's a sign. If there is blood on their underwear and they are not at the age of puberty, that can be also a sign. And they may tell you, some of them will tell you, but don't tell them that they are lying. Unmute your mic.
It's a family member, sometimes we tell them that they're lying.
Yes, they usually do that, and that's why I'm reinforcing it. Don't tell them that they are a liar, because if you tell them they are lying, they will not tell you anymore, and the abuse will continue, and you will sit there in the house, and if it is an in-law or a step, or even the actual blood father who is doing that, you may find that both of you are in there having sexual relations with the same man, and you live with that for the rest of your life. Don't do that to them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly, again, for the vast of information, for the tips that you have provided to us in helping the victims or persons who actually knows victims. And we could go on and on and on, but however, we have to stop right here because we have another presenter who is coming, who is back online with us, and she is going to present to us Rehabilitation of Sex Offenders. And this too is a very interesting presentation. So, but before she comes to us, we will have a short video because our intention is to end at 8:30.
Thank you for having me, my pleasure.
Thank you for being here as well.
Are there really paedophiles out there who are able to control their sexual feelings towards children? To find out, I asked Dr. Good whether one of the men she'd met online would talk to me on camera. Amazingly, one agreed. So I'm on my way to see a self-confessed paedophile called Eddie, who claims he's never acted on his attraction to children. It's hard to know for certain if that's true, but a police check confirmed there was no record of any criminal convictions. Most of us would never dream of talking to a paedophile, but if it can help keep our children safe, I think it's worth doing. Eddie had a fairly normal childhood. He was popular at school, good at sport, and even became captain of the school rugby team. It all seemed very ordinary. So would meeting him reveal anything else?
Hi Eddie. How you doing?
Good to meet you.
Come on in.
Thank you. Tell me how you came to recognise that you were a paedophile.
When I basically in my mid-20s, I'm now 39, and in my mid-20s it was a difficult time because that was when I first realised, well, I wouldn't say first realised, but came to the conclusion that it was fair to say that I am a paedophile. It's not, the thing is, it's not the only thing I am, but it plays a large part in the makeup of who I am as a person. I'd much prefer not to have these feelings and these attractions, but I have them. and that's difficult.
Tell me about that.
I have an age of attraction that starts, depending on the individual, as low as 5, roughly. 4 or 5, 6. A lot of people automatically assume that because I think or feel that way, that I'm potentially going to abuse a child, which in my mind is never been something that I don't feel I'm capable of that kind of thing. I certainly don't want to do that kind of thing. For me, it's perhaps not so difficult because I'm not exclusively attracted to children, because I do find myself attracted to women of all ages.
While it was uncomfortable to hear Eddie talk so openly about his sexual attraction to young girls, I was surprised to find out that he's also attracted to women. In fact, this sort of non-exclusive sexual attraction is typical of many paedophiles. That's why so many are married with children who pass unnoticed in our communities. The truth is, they just seem like ordinary men. But given our very understandable fear of paedophiles and the current hatred towards them, I wondered why Eddie had decided to take the extraordinary step of coming out on camera.
People will probably say, why isn't this guy locked up? Oh, we should kill this guy. We should go and give him a good shoe-in. Well, I honest to God, I will not run away from you. And if that's what you want to do to me, then you come and do it. Because all you're doing in that scenario is just keeping the status quo. Going around abusing children is not acceptable. Viewing images of child pornography is not acceptable. But people are just waiting for you to offend before they help you. And they're saying, well, do what you want, but if we catch you, we're going to bang you up. Instead of saying, perhaps, listen, we can help you. But if you don't have that help, if you don't have the option to come forward and say, look, I've got a problem, I need help, what are we changing? We're changing nothing.
I'm not sure whether Eddie's decision to come out in this way is brave or reckless. In the current climate, he really is putting himself in danger by doing this. But Dr. Sarah Good thinks that his call for help has great significance.
Somebody who realises that they are a paedophile has to make a choice about how they're going to live their lives. And at the moment, the only message that they're hearing from us in society is, you're a paedophile, you're an evil monster, we hate you, you're going to go and sexually abuse and probably rape and murder children. And there's nothing you can do about it because you are a paedophile, you're going to do that stuff. And when you do that stuff, we're going to lock you up in prison, you're going to have a terrible time in prison, everybody's going to hate you. Tough luck. And that's the only message that we're giving at the moment. And that's not a deterrent. It doesn't keep kids safe because it's not saying that that person has any choice. Now, if we change that message and if we say to this person, okay, you're a paedophile, but you are also a moral person who can make moral choices and you can choose never to break the law, never to offend. You can choose to keep children safe.
So this short video will now segue into our next presentation from Miss Cami Knight. Miss Knight, are you on? I saw her earlier. I know that she was experiencing some technical difficulties. Miss Knight, are you still here?
we seem to have lost her for a bit. I guess she'll be back shortly.
Okay, all right. So in the meantime, are there any additional questions in the meantime? I just want to reiterate something that Dr. Kelly has said, that it's never your fault. For persons who are going through this, it's never your fault. Write out your feelings. Work to get through it. Trust yourself knowing there is a God who can get you through it. And to see them through his eyes, see the person through your eyes. So Miss Knight has joined us and we will now turn over to her. Welcome. So your mic is muted.
Hello, good night everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Okay, I have to apologize. I'm having technical issues with the internet, in and out, and I've been trying to really stay connected to this meeting. How is everyone doing? The information that I've heard so far by Dr. Kelly has been very edifying. I gained a lot from her presentation. I'm seeing I'm good, feeling fine. Okay, that's great. All right, so I will be presenting on rehabilitation of sex offenders. Now, as you were told before, I'm the registration officer. So I'm in charge of the Sex Offender Registry at the State Mary office. Now, who do you consider to be a sexual offender? No, sexual offenders are persons who would have committed crimes, sexual crimes, and who would have appeared before the court in any jurisdiction parish for those crimes and would have been dealt with by the judge. So some of those offenses include rape, buggery, gross indecency, and that is exposure of oneself in public, as well as grooming and other offenses. If you have any questions, you're free to type, and as I go along, I will answer. Is everyone hearing me still? Okay,
yes, we're here.
Okay, good. All right, so the Sex Offender Registry was established in July 2014 of 2000. Now, the Sex Offender Registry has registration centers in every parish at the probation offices within each parish. And the registration officers are tasked with registering these sexual offenders and supervising them for a period of 10 years. So the offenders, if they appear before the court and they receive what we call a community-based sentence, which could be a suspended sentence supervision order, then they would be supervised for 10 years under the Sex Offender Registry. You also have persons who, after being sentenced by the court, they received custodial sentences. And custodial sentences are sentences that basically send them to prison. So they receive a term of imprisonment. So it would be that upon the day of their release from prison, they would have to be supervised from that day for a period of 10 years. Now, They are kept on the Sex Offender Registry and monitored, as I said, for a period of 10 years. And they're only eligible for termination after the 10 years is complete. Now, only a judge has the power to say if they are not to receive or not to be placed, be kept on the Sex Offender Registry. I or any other registration officer does not have that power. Now, at the present moment, I assume that there about a week or so on the news, they were speaking about the Sex Offender Registry and how they're planning to make it public so that they'll have a database where all sex offenders are registered, and so you can know where they are, where they live. And I'm sure you would have heard overseas, such as in America, you have a database with the sex offenders and you're able to put in the information and be able to know where they're located and know if they're in your community. So they're trying to put things in place so that that will be available. All right, so rehabilitation of sex offenders. Now, while they are on the registry, it is mandated that they receive counseling and other forms of intervention that would assist them in trying to curb their ways and to not be a recidivist. And a recidivist is a person who repeatedly commits crimes. So you will have contact with support systems to ensure that they receive the necessary support that will allow them to lower their risk of reoffending, as well as counseling and other forms of intervention. I'm seeing this a question, so I can't Google the sex offenders in St. Mary. No, you can't Google them and know that, okay, X and Y are sex offenders within the parish of St. Mary. At this time, that is not public information. All right, so it's still a work in progress, basically. All right, are there any other questions? Is the information clear so far? I would like to know if it's clear so far. If anybody is confused about anything or needs more clarity based on anything that I have presented so far. Okay, I'm seeing yes, clear. All right. Now, it is important to know that some persons, and I'm sure you're aware, some of you may read it in the paper, the newspaper, or other news articles, and you'd realize that one, especially in the parish of St. Mary, the offense of sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 16 years is prominent. Within the circuit court, the recent circuit court that was held in St. Mary, a lot of persons appeared before the court, both male and female, both juvenile and adults, juvenile being persons below the age of 18, appeared for having sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 16 years. And at one point, it was that only the male who had sex with the underage female would be charged. But now it's now there are instances where the females are also charged. So if the female is under 16 having sex with an under 16 male, both the male and the female are charged. However, the judge is somewhat lenient towards those persons, and so even though they may receive, okay, that's where I was coming to Lesia Gail. not all sexual offenders are registered. So as I was saying, those persons who are under the age of 16 years, they would have received the juveniles basically under the age of 18 years, and some of the adults, especially if their age does not exceed 21 or 22 years old based on the circumstances of the situation, the judge would order that their names not be recorded on the Sex Offender Registry, as well as that the conviction is not recorded. So when they go to get a police record, it's not on their record at all. Right? Is that clear to everyone? Did I answer your question? Okay, so, okay. Lesia Gale, yes, okay. So not all sex. Once a judge makes an order that this offender is not placed on the sex offender registry, they're not to be placed on the sex offender registry, right? So their name would not be recorded on the registry. Are there any other questions? Can you believe some offenders will get off scot-free, not even liquor record? Well, yes. Well, it wouldn't be scot-free, because the thing about it is that based on the circumstances, how young the persons are, the judge does not see it fit, or the court does not see it fit to give them a record or place them on that type of supervision. However, they have been receiving probation orders, and the probation order can go from 1 year to 3 years, during which time they would still receive intervention, counseling, and so on, but their name would not be recorded, and they would not have that recorded on their criminal record. Raymond Samuels, you're saying you agree with the court? And about what exactly? Not placing the names on the registry? All right, I'm seeing under what? Yes, that's it. Okay, I'm seeing C. Shirley, under what circumstances would this be recommended? What are you referring to? And I agree with you, Orion Bells, that their age does not mean that they won't reoffend. However, because they're young, they are basically given that chance to not to turn a new leaf and get the supervision by way of the probation order that would assist them to curb their ways so that they don't become a recidivist. Yes, and it's important to note as well, apart from the probation order, some persons, especially the adults, are given suspended sentence supervision order. And if they're given that or just a suspended sentence, their sentence would be suspended. For instance, the judge would say 6 months imprisonment suspended for 1 year. If during that 1 year they commit any crime or anything like that, and they're convicted or they plead guilty or they're tried and found guilty, they'll automatically go to prison for 6 months. Okay. Most times it's just a boyfriend girlfriend thing. That's true. A lot of young persons who go before the court is that they're saying this is my boyfriend, and you'll interview them and they say I'm a boyfriend, miss, I'm a girlfriend, miss, and so they feel that it's normal or it's okay to be involved in sexual activity with that person because I'm a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend. It's that type of situation. Some are schoolmates as well, and some of the acts even happen on the school compound. Under what circumstances would this be recommended? C, Shirley, you're saying offender's name not be placed on this registry. Okay, mainly based on age. So, and the circumstances. If you're saying they're boyfriend and girlfriend and they're young, their name more likely won't be placed on the sex offender registry. Some of the males as well, it's important to realize I'm saying that some of the males, were even told a wrong age by the female. So the female may have been 14 or 15 and the female tell them that they're 17. Yes, it's important for them to take the necessary precaution to know if the female, yes, it's a big in body, Raymond Samuels, yes. So it's their prerogative to make sure that they know that the person who they are saying they're going to be involved in sexual activity with is of the legal age. Because some persons, especially the young girls, lie about their age, and the men do not go and try to verify it, and they get involved with them, and then they're being arrested because they didn't give them the right age and they had sex with them. So now they become an offender. Into child diversion committee. So that's why the court gives this kind of leniency. Okay. Ask for yes, we can ask for identification. Sydney Cooper, that is a valid point. Nothing is wrong. Some people are like, why I want to ask for that, they feel like it's not necessary, but it is necessary, because sometimes they look at them, you can't tell the age and they tell you the wrong age, and it's a problem. 46-year-old not supposed to go to court because they never know the age. Exactly, I agree with you, Orion Bell. Sometimes yes, and sometimes that's the defense. Kedeen Hood, sometimes that's the defense, and it's false, not true, but sometimes that has in fact happened. Okay, Lloydette said ID, TRN, proof of address, letter from JP. Okay. Well, that person will be fully covered and know that they're not going to be getting any wrong age. So what the JP is going to say, I verify that so-and-so is above the age of 16 and above. Okay. All right. Can't see Pitney in tunic and I wonder if a child. Exactly. Some of them already see them in the school uniform and know. So when they go and they say they never know, it's a lie. It's trying to get out of it. But the court is smarter than that. They think they're smarter than the court, but the court is smarter than that. Any other questions? So when you hear all this information, those of you who have children, who have nieces, nephews, know that the girls can be charged too. They need to be careful, or else they'll get into the problem with the court. And as I said, it's not just having sex with underage, it's grooming, that is texting a child, or child pornography is also a sexual offense. As you know, you can see that when the pornography, if you have it on your phone and so forth, can get charged for that. So that is very important. Hello? Was somebody saying something? Yes, Raymond Samuel, some of these, and that's the thing, some of them are not being adequately supervised. Some of them, they're going to those places with adults in their family, such as mother or father, and so on. I'm checking on these questions. Continued advocacy is needed for the age of consent to be reviewed. Okay, so Kedeen, who do you think the age of consent should be reviewed? What is your view? What do you think the age of consent should be?
Definitely. A 16-year-old cannot vote. A 16-year-old cannot provide for him or herself. So how is it a 16-year-old should consent to sex? So the age at which you can vote or you're considered an adult.
Okay, so you think that the more appropriate age would be around 18, right? When you're actually classified by society, by the law as an adult. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Because even at 16, you have a lot of and the thing about it, a lot of persons who appeared before the court in the recent circuit, they have child with that person with whom they are charged. So both of them are charged for having sex with a person under the age of 16, or one of them is charged, and they have a child together. Two of them, I think, have two different, have 1-year-olds. Another one have couple months old. Yes, so that happens. How many after counseling backslide? Orion Bell. It happens very frequently. It happens very frequently. So reoffend. It happens very frequently. Well, reoffending in terms of going back before the court, not a lot. Not back before the court for different offenses. Not many. Okay, Raymond Samuel said 18 can get driver's license and can vote. Them time there. Okay, them have a voice at that time. That's what you think. I agree with what you're saying. Okay, 2 minutes to wrap up. Okay, are there any other questions? I hope that my presentation, although I would assume it's short and spicy, was very informative. I hope that you would have gained something from it. And at any other time, if I'm able to redo another presentation to clarify more for you, it would be a pleasure for me to do so. But as you say, if they reoffend though, they are brought back before the court and the court will deal with them differently. So when they come and it's explained to them, they know that if they do reoffend, that is the penalty for reoffending. And that alone motivates them not to reoffend. Dr. Jason Winter, hello. All right. All right, thank you very much for listening to the presentation, and thank you for being interactive and for your feedback. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Ms. Knight, for that presentation. I trust and hope that the persons last week who were asking about rehabilitation for the offenders are actually here and recognize that there is still hope for the persons who have offended. And I saw a hand. I'm not sure if the person still had the question. See Shirley, or did she put down her hand, or he? See Shirley, do you still have your question for Ms. Knight?
No, I don't. It was just an error.
Okay. So are there any other questions? No. So I want to thank you, Ms. Knight, for that wonderful presentation, for enlightening us re-offending and offenders. So we are coming to a close. If there are any final question, burning question that somebody would want to ask before we go and before we say thank you, you could just raise your hand or open your mic and go ahead. It must be a burning question that you want to ask. Somebody said that they need numbers for counselors, and that is so true. So yes, sometimes we are told that the support and the help is there. So for counselors and for psychologists and for whatever support services that are there that can help, I know that the Victim Services Division is one good one that persons can tap into when it comes on to victims. I'm seeing person from the Northern Caribbean University Counseling Department. So if they want, they can also type their numbers in the chat. I'm seeing Mrs. Hood typing in the number for the CPFSA. Yes, that's for children who have become victims, or also perpetrators can also reach out. So at this time, there's somebody typing in the chat, support services in the Ministry of Health. So this is for the Child Guidance Clinic. Thank you very much, Tonian, for that. You can continue to type in the numbers, and for the persons who need them, you can write them down. So on behalf of the Northeast Jamaica Conference Youth Department, we must say that this presentation opened our eyes to many things. Were your eyes open? So I want to express thanks first to the presenters for accepting the invitation and availing themselves to speak to us this evening and last week as well. And we are willing to use the information to assist others and also to assist ourselves where possible. I also want to say a big thank you to Latesha for braving it and speaking to us. And I'm sure that somebody was touched. Were you touched? Well, I was. We want to thank the organizers for recognizing the importance of sexual abuse and bringing this information to each and every one of us wherever we were. We have gotten a wealth of knowledge and we are better equipped to deal with these issues. Are you equipped? Well, I am certainly equipped to deal with these issues. We know where to report, and we recognize that there is also support. So there are many times when persons will say, yes, I am facing this challenge, but we do not recognize where to go, who to call, and where to report. If you are a victim, you don't have to suffer alone in silence. If you are a perpetrator as well, we recognize that you don't have to continue doing the same. Reach out for help today. Reach out for help tonight. Children, you can reach out. I see the number that is typed by Mrs. Hood. Reach out to the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, and there is one in every parish. So even if you're not from St. Mary, there's one in Portland, St. Anne, wherever you are from in Jamaica, there's a Child Protection and Family Services Agency. And also, if you know of a child who's been abused, even if you suspect, you can always feel free to call the National Children's Registry. And guess what? We work up to 11 p.m. in the night. So you can call us at 876-878-2882. You can also send us a WhatsApp, so that is the beauty about it. Or on a landline at 888-776-8328. You can also reach out to any police station and to the specialized unit, the CISOCA. There is one in every parish. So that is the Center for Investigating Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse. So you can reach out. I continue to see the numbers for the Child Protection and Family Services Agency in the Northeast region being typed in the chat. So you can take these numbers down. So call the CISOCA office, reach out to them, go to the nearest police station, reach out to them as well. And guess what? You know the beauty about the Seventh-day Adventist Church is that there are some professionals that work among us that work in these places. So reach out to these persons, speak to a trusted adult, go to your guidance counselors' children. If there are counselors in our midst, speak to them, speak to your pastor, speak to a teacher. And I want to end by saying, break the silence, break the cycle. It doesn't have to continue. Put your trust in God, pray, and ask him to show you that trusted adult that you can reach out to. And also, there's also the child guidance clinic and adult psychological services that is also available in each and every parish. So guess what? We don't have to suffer alone. We don't have to do this alone. Whether you're a victim or a perpetrator, there is help. And God is there as well to help us. Never allow the pain, and I'm quoting now from Dr. Kelly as I close, never allow the pain of the past to cripple you. Whatever was meant for evil, God can allow it for good. I want to thank you for joining us this evening, and I pray and hope that this presentation will make our lives better. There are many, as I said before, persons who are typing in the chat, and I see Tony and Davis, and I see Mrs. Kelly in Hood, and I see other persons. These are professional people in our church who are equipped and are able to help us. Let us not suffer in silence alone. As I close, Brother Walters will pray our closing prayer.
Okay, shall we pray? Great God, Lord, indeed, you said that you'll never leave us nor forsake us. And tonight, oh, we know that you were here with us. Lord, you said that where your people gather, you are in the midst to bless them and to do them good. Father, we thank you for each presenter who inspire us with your different presentation. We ask, dear God, you may use this information to help someone who is hurting, someone who is in fear because of violence and sexual offender who inflict pain upon them. Lord, I ask, oh God, that the church will take part in encouraging one another and helping someone who is hurting. Lord, I pray, dear God, that you will comfort us, oh God, with all your comfort, and that, oh God, you will be with us each and every day. Lord, we look forward, dear God, that when the time shall come when there'll be no more suffering, no more pain, no more crying or violence and abuse. And so, Lord, until then, oh God, keep us faithful to you and keep us true. Be with us as we go from day to day. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Brother Walters, for that wonderful prayer. And I pray that we will all keep safe, that we will all remember to wear our mask, be sanitized, and as best as possible to protect ourselves. I say bye for now until next week in another series. Stay tuned.